Hi, I'm Ron Nutter, and welcome to another edition of Tech Bites with Ron Nutter. In this episode, we're going to talk about the care and feeding of your Raspberry Pi, because wouldn't you rather spend a few minutes now taking some precautions that happen to recreate an entire SD card? Stay tuned, we'll work through that. This content is also available as an Amazon Flash briefing or podcast. Please go to techbiteswithronnutter.com for more information. For any items mentioned in this episode, there are affiliate links in the description. I will get a small commission when you purchase something, but that won't affect the price you pay for the item. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe and enable notifications. If this video helps you or provides value, please click on that like button, thumbs up. Now, we're going to talk about several different options for backing up that SD card. And trust me, wouldn't you rather spend some time backing one up than having to recreate it from scratch and trying to remember all your settings? I know I would. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk through the process with several different ways. I'm going to show you how to do it with Windows and then how to do it with Linux. And there's no right or wrong way to do it. And it's not a bad idea to have more than one available. So what we're going to do is I've already got the subject Raspberry Pi slid out of the C4 Labs rack that I'm keeping them in, and I've already pulled out the SD card. Now, to help you a little bit, there's going to be this is the card reader I'm using. Now, you probably have one that will work just fine. This is one that I'm used to getting the stuff from Anker, and they make a lot of good products. This one, in case you can see right there, it has a blue tip on it. So it's USB 3.0. So that's going to give you maximum transfer speed, ultimately being limited by the PC that you're working with. Now, something to think about as well is this will work with both micro SD and SD. So depending on the Raspberry Pis that you've got, you can do it either way. You don't have to worry about taking the micro SD card and putting it in a shell and putting it in then into whatever reader you've got at that point. So we're going to get the process started here. We're going to switch over to our Windows machine. And what we will do here at this point is I've already got, and this is in the notes, something called Win32K DSK Imager. I've already got that installed. Now, the first thing we want to go do is I'm going to plug in the reader into my Windows 10 machine. You can see the little lights flashing right there. That's your indication that everything is good to go once it goes solid. And I've got it plugged into a USB 3 port on the system. And let's go over to the actual Windows desktop. Now what we will go through and do is we will click on the Windows 32K. Can't say that fast 3 times. Imager. Now, this is why you don't want to start this until you've already inserted the USB reader into it, is because it will automatically pick up on that one. Now, this is the one I've got plugged in, so if you have more than one, you'll need to go and verify that it does have the right device picked. And then you can go in here and pick the directory, which at this point, we will click on Documents. I've just got it called RPi Images, and we're going to do Test Image. And by default, it's already going to give it the .img. And then we will click Read. And this is the part where it's going to take a little bit of time to do this, because as you can see, it's saying, well, this is a 32 gig card. So it's saying, right, it's going to take about 7 minutes. Now, if you have, granted, I'm on an Intel NUC, so it's not no screaming performance, but there is an advantage to this type of backup, and that's where I'm going to show you the Linux ways of doing it, and that's going to be with the card live. So if depending on what you're running off of that particular Raspberry Pi, you may run into some challenges where some of the files may not get backed up correctly, because if they're open or active at the time you're doing the backup, then you may have, I won't call it a corrupted backup, but you may not have a good backup of that file, which in a pinch, some backup is better than nothing. So granted, with this one, you do have to take the SD card out of the Raspberry Pi. So it does have to be taken down. And if you've got a rack like I do, then you do have to take the card totally out of service. So there's no one good solution to it. An offline backup, or where the card's not active, will ultimately be the best backup that you're going to be able to get. And once this, I'm not going to keep this running for 7 minutes, but you can see once this is completed, then it'll go all the way to the end. Now, you do periodically want to test this, and that's why I would have a separate card to test with, because you don't want to overwrite your operational card, but have a separate card to test with. So verify that your backup is actually doing what you think it's going to do, because wouldn't you rather know now instead of when the what's contacted the rotary oscillator and then you're really in a pickle. So this is going to be running its way through here, and we'll come back once it's done and we'll go on to the different Linux options. Okay, now you've seen how to make an image of the SD card or micro SD, pick your terminology, for the Raspberry Pi using a Windows machine. There is a comparable program, and Balena Etcher is multi-platform. So you can get one on Balena, and I haven't looked for one yet for the Win32 equivalent version of what I showed you on the PC that we did the card on. My hope had been to show you in this part how to do it within Linux, and all the options I found are going to be a little involved. So this was going to take it well beyond the amount of time I wanted to have this video take up for you. So what I'm going to be looking at the other ways of doing it, because there is not a native way once the Raspberry Pi mounts the micro SD card if you're using an RPi 4, or I think the 3B's even gone to that. Anyway, there's some challenges there. So there's some scripts I found. I want to look at those and see how easy they are to work with. I found a way that you can back it up to an NFS server. And if you say, but Ron, I don't have an NFS server, but wait, we're going to get one set up. And if you have already set up the Open Media Vault that I had shown in another video, that's where we're going to do it as one possible solution. There's also a way you can back it up to a Windows share, or using Samba, or if you have a Windows server handy, that's also going to be a way there. But again, those are going to be involved enough. I wanted to have each video, and that's my goal with all these, have these very, very task specific, so that you can pick just one and have kind of take you beginning to end. At this point, the way I've shown you is probably the easiest if you're just starting to deal with Raspberry Pis, because you power down the Raspberry Pi, you pull out the micro SD card or SD card, depending on the flavor of Raspberry Pi that you're using, back it up, and that way you're backing it up with the Raspberry Pi offline, no files are open, and that's your cleanest way to get a backup. So anyway, that gets you started. I'm going to be doing other options, but that's just going to take it well beyond the time that, again, I wanted this to take, and I wanted to keep it very task-oriented and very straightforward for you. Again, I know I've said that once before, but my whole goal is to help those who have done very little to nothing with the Raspberry Pi and help you get up to speed very quickly. So that's going to be what we're going to do, and those will be coming in future videos. Now, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see videos to the right or to the left that are the next steps to the one you've just watched, or other content that you might be interested in. If this video helps you, please click on that like button, thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please click on subscribe now and enable notifications. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.